Okay. I'm going to be much smoother now. I'm going to be like, hello, welcome to, all right. Welcome to the board meeting of June 4th, 2018. Can we start again? Now I know I get takes. All right, I'm ready. Sorry, I just felt really disingenuous doing my June spiel. Okay, I gotta go right to the minutes. All right, ready? Welcome to the June 4th, 2018 Board of Directors meeting. We're gonna go ahead and get started. One of our second to last meeting for this school year. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and do approval of the minutes. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes for May 7th, 2018?
I approve the May 7th, I make a motion to approve the May 7th, 2018 minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 17th, 2018?
I move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Madam Chairwoman, I will second that.
Fantastic, surprising. All in favor? Thank you. Our next section is some recognitions. This year, we are having two truly invaluable board members from Cumberland, both Vicki Bell and Karen Campbell, who will be cycling off the board. It looks like we have some uncontested elections with some great new board members coming on. But for a moment, I'd like to just share some of my thoughts regarding Vicki's service and her vision on the board over the last 4 years. Vicki has this incredible gift of being able to recognize and articulate the needs of our students, as also really reflected in the incredible service that our teachers and our staff do. She is a voice for our students, she is a voice for our staff, and she is a voice for our strategic plan. You have never shied away from the tough issues, and your passion has always been appreciated. So you will be sorely missed, both as a friend and as a board member, and I appreciate, and I think I speak for all of us, that we are very grateful for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I wrote down a couple of things because you know how bad I am trying to do things off the cuff. So, thank you for the kind words. It's really been quite an experience. I'd like to thank the community for the opportunity to serve on the board. I'd like to recognize the commitment of all MSAD 51 employees as they continue to engage, empower, and inspire all of our students, most importantly, in a variety of ways. And I'm grateful to have served alongside such a dedicated group of board members. It's really such a pleasure. I'm definitely going to miss that part of it, and I really feel like I met a lot of great, committed people for the past 4 years, and feel really honored to have served with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, also Karen, who is not here. Karen Campbell, who I think served on the board for 8 years, actually, if you compile it all. And she's actually moved out of the district, but it was at the end of her term. And I think Karen, because if there's anyone who would move out of town and still watch the videos, you would probably be the one person. So I know you might be watching this. And I say that with great respect and gratitude for your fierceless advocacy for our district. Sometimes at, really putting yourself out there as a person, and your incredible knowledge and depth, both financially, your Karen's really just intuitive instinct for what is consistent with our strategic plan, her commitment to the strategic plan and advancing that. So Karen will be sorely missed. She will be, I'm sure we'll be ringing to get those institutional insights and just her guidance, but I do, out there in Hollywood, thank you, Karen, very, very much, and go forth and prosper. Bangor is a lucky place to have you. So, additionally, one thing that I thought we would do, because this is actually another great time, is I'm going to take an item out of action. Tonight is the night that we go ahead and vote to approve our junior student representative. Madeline Panici will be moving up and being the senior representative. Andrew Eckert is off to Hobart, graduated on Sunday, and we now have Tara Gallo, who is currently a sophomore. I'm going to ask Dan and Tara, if you want to stand next to Dan, to introduce her to us prior to our vote. And then what I think I might do is we can take a motion, and if people have questions or however, by all means, and then assuming Tara is, we can lure her onto the dark side and onto the board, we'll have Tara join us tonight. But in the meanwhile, Dan, why don't you share some of your thoughts?
Good evening, everyone. My pleasure to introduce you to Tara Gallo. Tara went through a lengthy selection process. She wrote a wonderful essay. I believe at least some of you have seen the essay that she wrote. And she was interviewed by 3 other students in Greeley High School, myself and one of the teachers. And she came out as the unanimous choice to hopefully be the junior board rep for next year. So, you want to say something?
I'm really excited to do this, and I'm really lucky, I think, to have this opportunity because I know there are a lot of wonderful other people who applied, so I'm really excited. So thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or? All right. Well, then I'd entertain a motion to appoint and approve Tara Gallo as our next year's junior representative.
I'll move to appoint Tara Gallo as the junior student representative for 2018-2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Welcome aboard. Come to the hot seat.
You have to sing.
That's great. You did, you did. Next on, we will be moving on to our presentations. Sally? With the ESSA program plan.
Thank you, Is this on?
Yeah, it is.
How's this?
Yep.
Awesome. Oh, but if I do my password again. How's- So thank you. This is a very brief presentation, but it's greatly appreciated that you're giving us this time this evening because ESSA stands for the Every Student Succeeds Act, and that is the federal funding package that's available to states. It started with the Elementary and Secondary Education Act back in Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty, and ever since then, the federal government has a program to administer funds to districts in our states, primarily focusing on supporting students in poverty and the impact of those the factors on students. But I'm here tonight to share a little bit about the funds that we'll be receiving this year, we've received this year and we'll be receiving next year, to share what our plans are for spending those funds, and to invite the public for further input if anyone is interested. So I think the first point is to help the public appreciate the scope of the support that we receive here in Cumberland. As you can see, that there's listed both for 17-18 and 18-19, 3 different sources of funding known as Title I, II, and IV. The funding that we are receiving this year is slightly less than last year. And when you look at it as part of our total budget, I think it came to roughly less than 1/3 of a percent, 0.27% of our budget are the funds that we receive from ESSA. So what do we do with the funds? And what we've done in years past and propose to do this year is to combine them. One of the strengths of this program is that it allows districts to use the funds most thoughtfully. And in our case, we have a Title I program that we support at the Mabel I. Wilson School, which involves 2 literacy teachers working directly with students at risk. Clearly, the 2 teachers cost more than the $100,000, but we gratefully accept the funds and apply it toward their salaries and follow all the rules and procedures for a Title I targeted assistance program at Mabel I. Wilson. So it is our proposal, just as we applied the $107,000 last year, that we've applied the $100,000 we'll be receiving this year. And this is our opportunity, by speaking to you and the public, because this is televised, to engage the broader stakeholder groups in giving us feedback about our plans. So we are grateful for this opportunity, and please contact me, Sally Laughlin, if you have any comments, questions, whatever I can do to help. We appreciate the public's interest, we appreciate the funds, and we're happy to talk about our use of them.
Can I ask you just a couple of questions? So, and I'm not completely conversant in Title I versus II versus IV in terms of what they are for, but could the money, I'm not questioning the MIW being it, but
Yeah.
could the money be, is it required that it be applied to a certain age group, or can it be applied to other grades?
No, the three separate titles all come with their own rules. And the Title I funds have to go to your highest poverty schools in the district in a category. Since we only have one school in each grade level category, we really could decide where we think the greatest need is. In years past, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act has had many different names. I mean, many people in the public might have heard of NCLB. We're now on to ESSA. But back in the 90s, the primary program, similar to Title I at that time, was called Chapter 1. And there was a conventional wisdom that early childhood literacy would be the most appropriate place to apply the funds. It's always been recognized that there'll always be more at-risk students than are funds available. So I think it's a pretty traditional and straightforward approach to be applying it to early childhood literacy. But honestly, the district has options in that area. And then in addition, Title II has had a bunch of different purposes, but primarily at this point in time, it's about teacher quality. Again, we can apply and pour those funds right into the Title I bucket if we so choose. And then Title IV is a reasonably new title in the last couple of years, and that funds enrichment opportunities, sex education. There's a lot of different things you can do with your Title IV funds. We are a very low receiver. And given that, and the requirements that take to make sure you follow the guidelines of each of those titles, it seems most prudent to apply them all in one area.
Just because I'm curious, if you know, what percentage of a school's budget for a high receiver of these funds,
Yeah.
what percentage of their budget could feasibly encompass?
I'm going to do some quick math, but I'm looking at Jeff Porter because he worked in Biddeford, which I would consider a fairly high receiver.
Yeah, at the time when I was down there, I did what Sally did. I oversaw federal monies as part of my job, and we had anywhere from $1 million to $1.5 million each year to spend on mostly Title I, but Title III, we had ESL funds as well. Title IV, there was Title V back then.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the district. I mean, Biddeford is a high needs, high poverty district, so it depends.
Thank you. Any other questions? Carrie?
Not so much a question, but I just want to say I think the use of these funds at Mabel I. Wilson for the literacy, I think it's a really good choice. I can see why it came about very naturally. You know, it sounds contrite, but I think it's really true that if you can get kids excited and feeling comfortable reading, you can get them really excited and immersed in their learning because it opens up so many doors. So I think it's really a great choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So next, we're going to go over the proposed strategic plan, as a review of that Jeff will be doing, and Kevin has also been working, on.
Good evening. I am very pleased tonight, on behalf of the Strategic Planning Committee, and Mr. Desmond, who's been the chair of that committee for the year, to present the proposed strategic plan for the years 2018-21. Can you believe 2021? Wow. For a 3-year plan, and it's replacing the current plan, which we now have in place and are looking to expire or sunset that plan in June. Let's see what the technology is doing here. And also follow along, we have the entire 80-page plan that's in your packet. I'm trying to go to the next slide.
Well, this, okay. I can see it. I thought he meant
All right, so here you are.
like one of these.
Board of Directors in August recommissioned and reformulated the Strategic Planning Committee to begin the work of drafting a new strategic plan. So that was an authorization that you did back in August. And the Strategic Planning Committee was then formed. This committee was made up of different stakeholder representatives, including board members, students, parents, and staff members, teachers. The essence of being strategic, according to Jim Collins, who wrote the book Good to Great, effective organizations are able to cut away a lot of noise and clutter and just focus on the few things that make the greatest impact. These probably look familiar, hopefully. These are the 4 goals that we've had for the last 3 years. Engage, empower, and inspire, which is also our tagline. Every child, every classroom, every day. Investment in our team and community partnerships. And these are some of the areas, these are the action steps that have been in the current plan. As you can see, there are a number of items and initiatives that the current strategic plan has been involved with. Anywhere from pathways to response to intervention, to technology, to STEM education, to later start times, et cetera. We've had a whole range of things that the current plan has focused on. The process that we used for developing this plan over the last year mirrors the process that we used actually 4 years ago that we started. Phase 1, which is planning. Phase 2, gathering the voices. Phase 3, creating the plan, approving and communicating, and implementing and monitoring. And right now, we're hoping that we're getting to phase 4 of the process, so getting towards the end. So introducing, yay, drum roll, the proposed 2018-21 strategic plan. And if I had to boil the strategic plan down into one slide, here it is. So this is your I guess, study guide for the strategic plan. The strategic plan is made up of 4 different parts. And if you remember a couple months ago, I introduced the concept of a house. And we decided that was kind of, we were testing the waters with that. And we did get some feedback along the way that perhaps that wasn't the best way of illustrating the new plan in its fullest potential. So what you'll see here is really kind of a morphing of what the plan now looks like, and hopefully we can solidify it here. So it has 4 different parts. These are the 4 priorities. And one of the reasons the house concept didn't work when we introduced it a couple months ago is it really made it look like there were certain levels or more important priorities. And when you really look at the strategic plan in a circular fashion, you really see that priorities, all 4 priorities, work together, and they're all important, and there's not one that's more important than the other. That being said, these are color-coded. to help anyone who would prefer to look at the 80-page plan. Mr. Simmons said that he's already checked every page out and wanted me to actually present all 80 pages tonight. I had to hold him off. So, the four major areas are wellness, foundation for teaching and learning, early childhood education, the critical building block, every child college and career ready, and skills for the 21st century, skills for life. And if you take those four priorities and kind of mesh them together into our tagline, this is what we call, or what I call, a very important priority. Back in the 90s, they called it a wildly important goal, WIG. Now it's a VIP, very important priority. Engage all students by ensuring a solid foundation in early childhood education and district-wide commitment to wellness. Empower every student to be college and career ready, and inspire every student by teaching the necessary skills for the 21st century. So, in a nutshell, this is what the strategic plan looks like. This is what it follows. We have priorities, which are supported by strategies for each priority, which are supported by roadmaps, which tell us kind of where to go for the next 3 years, and I'll talk about that in a minute, followed by stakeholder connections, and I'll be going into all these in just a few minutes, followed by progress indicators and metrics. So that's the general design of the strategic plan. If you would like to look at the entire 80 pages, you'll see that this pretty much follows right through. This is very important for me to note that in designing the plan and the leadership team, as we were discussing this, this was something that really came up quite a bit, that we might have misstepped on the first plan, and I'll just say that publicly. That there's a lot of material that goes into a strategic plan and a lot of content that we want to look at and a lot of initiatives that we're trying to support. And it's important for us not to keep ourselves pigeonholed into a 3-year plan. It's important to phase the kinds of things that we're going to do, knowing that it has to be flexible and there has to be a continuous nature of looking at the work that we're trying to do with a strategic plan. So in developing this new plan, and again, the leadership team, in our discussions, this was something that they really advocated for, and I strongly support, is that we phase things instead of looking at things by year, we look at it by phases or chunks of time. So the first 2 years would be phase 1 in the plan, and you'll notice that throughout the plan. And phase 2 is the 3rd year of the plan, plus everything that follows the 3rd year, knowing that there are many parts of this plan that will not be completed within 3 years, many, that will continue to go forward. And that's really the genesis of this particular plan, is that the work is not supposed to be finished in 3 years, and there's really no way for most of it to be finished. So I'm going to take you through each of the 4 priorities briefly, and if you want more information, that's in the 80-page plan. There's a lot more detail, but just the general information for each priority, starting with wellness. And as you can see, again, I'm trying to point out the way to follow this plan. I've color-coded the priority that we're in and given it a graphic so that you can find it pretty easily within the plan. So we'll start with wellness. Wellness and the foundation of teaching and learning, which is promoting wellness initiatives that advance and sustain healthy, balanced, and well-rounded students and staff. The Wellness Committee, which is chaired by Carol MacArthur, and she presented the wellness plan, as you know, at the last meeting. And that plan actually is going before you tonight for approval. That is the information that Carol presented is in the strategic plan. There's no difference. There's synergy between both of those. So what was presented in that plan, you're now seeing in the proposed strategic plan. So as you know, there are 6 areas that the Wellness Committee decided on in putting forth the proposed wellness plan: homework, mental health, substance use, digital citizenship, fitness, and nutrition. And this is one of those areas of the plan that's really important. And thinking about this is not just a 3-year plan. This is a long-term plan. Most of these things in the wellness plan and thus in the strategic plan will not be completed in 3 years. it will be probably at least 2 strategic plans for most of that work that's in there. So the strategies that are in here, and I'm actually not going to go through the wellness ones because Carol did this at the last presentation, but you can follow along in the plan as well. These are the exact same strategies that were put forward by the Wellness Committee. So going on to early childhood education, the critical building block. The big idea there is to review the district's long-term elementary education program and structure, including options for 3 and 4-year-olds, optimal grade spans, and facilities that address projected enrollment increases over the next decade. So you'll also see a box that has the big ideas that the plan will address. 3 and 4-year-old learning, elementary grade span, enrollment at the elementary level, facilities for elementary education, and instructional and professional time. So let's take a quick look at what that means. Pre-kindergarten education, expanding our offerings, and the board did have in its strategic plan that currently you're working under, addressing 3 and 4-year-old education and learning. Obviously, the state was signaling that there would be some other activity to come, and the board put that on hold, as you all are aware, of course, and we'll be watching closely what the legislature will be doing over the next year or two. Elementary education study, studying early childhood education, which is grades pre-K through grade 5, with a real focus on looking at grade configurations. Do we have the right grade configurations for elementary education? And then whatever that comes out of that, do we have the right facilities and space to meet the needs of our students, our youngest students, over the next decade? And then the last one is one that's come out of some community discussions, is looking at optimal learning time and instructional needs at the elementary school level, including looking at the mix of how do we provide professional learning time for our staff, at the same time balancing the needs of our students and how much instructional time they're receiving as well. The next one is every student college and career ready. And the big ideas here are collective responsibility for learning, response to intervention, literacy, and STEM, expanding the STEM area. And these 4 questions right here come from Rick and Becky Dufour. Rick Dufour has since passed, but Becky Dufour has continued with these big overarching ideas having to do with student learning. First asking, what should students learn? What should they be learning? How do we know they're learning it? What do we do when they're not learning? And what do we do when they've already got it? Those are 4 big questions that the Dufours have asked for years, and many schools have found those to be important questions. So looking at college and career ready strategies, under collective responsibility, setting the conditions for learning by providing a K through 12 coordinated, viable, and coherent curriculum. A lot of the work that is going on in this particular one has already long started. But this is an area, and you'll see a lot of threads in this plan where we've started work and we're continuing it into the next strategic plan, or we'd like to. So this is one of those areas. The next one is another area that we've started. A lot of work has been done in the RTI area, but we're continuing to implement. The leadership team over the last few months has developed a new RTI plan moving forward for the next few years. That plan is very robust and really leaves off where the last RTI initiatives have stopped. And well, we haven't actually stopped any of it, but going into the next plan. So this is really based on what is the need of the district and moving forward with response to intervention for the next 3 years. The next one is around literacy. We have been focusing in the current plan around mathematics. We now know that we need to shift back to literacy and looking at the needs of our students for literacy. It doesn't mean that we're ever not focusing on content areas. It just means as a district that we would like to focus K through 12 back on literacy, and it's not just something at the K through 3 level, K through 5 level. This is something that will be focusing on literacy all the way through the high school. When I was with the English department a few months ago talking about this potential part of the strategic plan, they were very supportive, feeling like there were areas at the high school that they would like to focus on as well. So it certainly is not something just for elementary ed. And then finally, STEM expansion. Again, this is something that we've started, as you know, in the current strategic plan, but there's so much more to do. And initially, STEM was not back in the strategic plan for the next one. And after a lot of conversations, we're like, we can't drop that work. And the leadership team actually was very instrumental in wanting to make sure that that work was continued. And the last priority is skills for the 21st century, skills for life. And this one is around students are more engaged when learning is meaningful and relevant. Fostering creativity, innovation, and personalization enhances learning. Extending access to pathways for all high school students through connections to meaningful career-related field experience. So the big ideas under 21st century skills are high school career field experiences for all students at the high school level. Extended learning opportunities, which is something that this current plan has already started, would just be continuing. Learning exhibitions, project-based learning, service learning, and creativity and innovation. And I will say that on the strategic plan survey, which we had conducted, and we had about 670 or so people respond to that survey, it was this priority that had the most, the highest score marks for people that wanted to see more of this happening in our district. So it was interesting to see that. These were high scores across the board on that particular survey that people responded to. Aristotle said, where your talents and the needs of the world cross, there lies your vocation. So the strategies for 21st century, high school career experience. This is a passion that I have as well. It's not just one that came out, but it certainly came out in all the discussions, the community dialogue, the surveys. That students need more world view application and looking at field experience and career experience. We offer career experiences throughout our district in different ways, but this was one way of actually getting students into the field and making sure every student has a career experience, even albeit limited, whether it's a week or whatever that might be, in a field of some interest to every student before they graduate from high school. Extended learning opportunities, this is something that this year has been the first year for ELOs in our district, and Mark Bay obviously presented to you a few weeks ago and talked about the results of the first year, where we had about 40 students or so in some capacity participating. Learning exhibitions, this has actually been in the current plan, and we were not able to, with the time and capacity, get to this. So we've elected to put it back into the next plan. And this is around guiding principles at the state level, 21st century learning skills, and giving students kind of a forum for being able to present those skills. And obviously with the Greeley Center for the Arts, there's a great venue for some of this as well to take place. And finally, this was one that came very strongly up from many of our teachers in their responses around creativity and innovation in the classroom, and the need to get back to that and to find opportunities for us to continue to find ways to build multiple pathways for students to learn. So the plan, as you look at the entire plan, there are what we call, and I'm just going to give you a sampling, I'm not giving you all of these, that's all in the 80-page document, what we call vantage points in the plan. And a vantage point, and I think Kevin was the one that either coined it or helped us understand, you've got to pull ideas from the plan and put them in one place so people can see them. So there's vantage points that are spread throughout the priorities, but we've, in the plan, attempted to put those into one place so you can see them. So it's not new content, not new material in the plan, but it's simply a way of pulling things and grouping them so that they're for easy viewing purposes. So under Vantage Points, you'll see stakeholder connections, facilities and operations, and leadership. So under stakeholder connections, we have created these Vantage Points around student voice and engagement, parent and community partners, and investment in our staff. And if you remember from the current plan, parent and community partners and investment in our staff are actually two separate goal areas in our current plan. And one of the things that we wanted to attempt to do was to pull those in and connect those to all of our priorities and not keep them as isolated goals. That was very important from the beginning. So this is just a sample. I'm not going to go through all of the Vantage Points, but under stakeholder connections, this is a Vantage Point. Again, none of the material on this slide is new. All of this was pulled. You can find this in all the 4 priorities that I just went through in the actual roadmaps, which I didn't include in this presentation. But this is an example of what we mean by Vantage Point. This is student voice and engagement, and you can see 3 out of 4 priorities were heavily vested in student voice and engagement. The one that wasn't was early childhood education, and that's because a lot of it is with children who are very young, and the plan didn't stress that. But for the other 3 priority areas, there's a lot of student voice and engagement, and we pulled those from the full 4 priorities and put them in one place so you can say, where is the connection to student voice and engagement in the plan? Other Vantage Points that we were able to put into the plan were facilities and operations and leadership. So this is an example, facilities and operations. Again, not new material. We pulled all of the facility and operation strategies from the plan, from the 4 priorities, and grouped them into one place so you could have easy viewing. So one of the things that came up, especially from the board at the workshop a few months ago, was this need to have a view on facilities and operations, and then to also have another. What is the facilities plan for the district going to look like? What are areas that may need to be looked at? And again, these are not definites. These are areas of either concern or interest going forward, and making sure that those are all in one place, in one view. And you'll see this in the plan. The plan also encompasses progress indicators and metrics. So indicators are basically being able to monitor parts of the plan and being able to keep track of it. And the metrics are the impact or the measurement of the plan. And that's a word that Mr. Desmond helped us with quite a bit and made sure that we had metrics built into this plan. So again, I'm not going to go through the progress indicators because there's a few if you look at the 80-page report. So let me give you a sample. This is a sample list starting at progress indicator 27. And this is around the early childhood education. So it's all grouped by color. You can't see that on the screen right here, but in the actual document, you'll see that these are grouped by color so that you can keep track of which ones are which. These are not necessarily action steps. These are things that we wanted to be more specific than the current plan. The current plan had 23 action steps, but really in reality, under each of those 23 action steps, there were 10 to 20 different things that needed to be done that we never ever indicated in the plan. And so a lot of those action steps ended up becoming very, very cumbersome to navigate. And we wanted to avoid that by being very transparent about every little thing we would have to do. So it may seem like more things that need to be done in this plan, but we are actually just spelling stuff out in a much more specific fashion. And again, this is a sample metrics. In looking at metrics, these are things we already collect for information. This is not stuff that we would need to do that's new. And these are just some of the metrics that you'll see in the plan. For example, under 21st century, the priority of 21st century skills, we already give the student survey every year. This is the annual student survey. So for example, I have opportunities to think creatively during my classes, and this is a secondary question that we give. Our baseline is this current year's survey, which was 60% of the students, indicating that they are believe they have opportunities to be creative in class, and obviously we want to see that grow with the new strategic plan and the focus there. So these are metrics that can help us understand the progress and the impact that the strategic plan is making. This is not new. This particular slide is around site improvement plans. For each school and department, we've been doing this for 3 years now with the current plan. And you can see a list of schools and departments in our district that all have a site improvement plan. And you've heard those at the beginning of each school year when the principals and directors share those with you. So we'll continue with that process. And this is another way of looking at how everything works together in this plan. And again, this is not new. Some of the terms have changed a little bit with the new plan, starting with our mission statement, our vision, our core values, which have not changed. So the parts in green are the same as they are in the current plan and have been for years. That's kind of our foundation. Priorities, strategies, and roadmaps are new terminology that are new for this particular plan. They're replacing the goals and the action steps from the current plan. My goals, the superintendent's goals, site improvement goals, and administrator and staff goals throughout the organization are linked into the strategic plan, and that's what aligns it. We've been doing that for 3 years, and we're going to continue with that process. Communicating the plan, we have many ways that we will communicate the plan, many of them mirrored 3 years ago. Obviously, the district website, social media, executive summary. We'll have an executive summary which will condense all this information into a very quick flyer for people to view. At the staff meeting in August, the opening of year staff meeting, this plan will be presented. New staff orientation with new teachers to our district. I'll be working with them around becoming familiar with the strategic plan. In fact, really every candidate for a teaching job that I interview for a second interview mentions the strategic plan that we have in some way. That's usually what gets them the job, to be honest with you. That helps them get the job. If they don't mention it, it's like a annual progress report. Annually, I have presented the progress of the strategic plan. I'm not doing that this year because I'm presenting the new one, but you can also go into the 80-page document that's before you, and there's around 10 different pages in there that shows the final conclusion of the current plan, the sunsetted plan, or sunsetting plan, and where we ended up with each of those areas of the plan. So I certainly won't go through those tonight, but they're there for you to look at. And then finally, our annual Ranger Connection that we put out to all households in the community. We'll be obviously continuing that emphasis in the Ranger Connection and connecting that to the strategic plan. And that is the end of this presentation. Now, it's 35, but if you want to look at the whole thing,
We got it.
What am I
you have every opportunity to look at 80 pages there.
Kevin, do you want to add on or thoughts or?
I want to look at all 80.
They're all there for you, Mr. Desmond.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things to say. You know, a couple weeks ago, we had a room full of people talking about the budget. And tonight we have 12 people here, and most of those work at the school, which I'm glad you're here, of course. But this is what it's about, because if we had unfettered access to public funds, think of everything that could be done. But the work that you and the staff and the administration have put into prioritizing those things that help to move that line through an effective use of public funds, it really is admirable. You know, what this is, we had those meetings back in November where everybody came in and they weighed in on those things that were most important to them. And we had a number of different things that people found very interesting. And then we had 763 responses to the survey, and everybody weighed in to help prioritize those. The way that you've put this together allows us to continue to put the students right in the center of everything, and then look at the way that we develop staff to ensure that they can deliver upon that, to look at how the community can be vested in this, and not just when the vote comes up, but there's so many more places that the community must be involved in. And ideally, everyone's going to schedule time to watch this and read the plan, because it's the right plan. The approach here, when I was enamored of the way that you approach strategy in this district when I came onto the board a few years ago. And it's not enough just to talk about we think strategically. It's every meeting that occurs, whether it's the onboarding of new staff or your regular administration meetings, you talk about why that's important. And it's cascaded across this school board in every meeting that I've been in. It's been part of those, and not just on the agendas. But it's taking chance out of it and focusing on those things that are most important to this district. Absent that, it just becomes rudderless. And so I really applaud the effort that you've made to make strategic priorities important here. And then to the rest of the community, the fact that you can look at a scorecard and you can understand across each of those three phases how your dollars are being spent to make this a better community and to better educate our children, I just think is admirable, Jeff. That's all I have.
That's very good.
Well, thank you also. I mean, your leadership has been just tremendous on this, and you can see your vision and your guidance through it all. So I really appreciate what you and your whole committee have done. It's really quite something. It's very user friendly, and it really does reflect, I think, where the pulse is right now for what the community is interested in. Do other board members have any comments on this? Okay, well, thank you very much.
So we're going to ask the board to consider the plan, and then at your next board meeting to hopefully vote on it, so that we'll have a active plan moving forward in July,
So next week,
next week.
Yep,
Your next
okay.
Your
Great.
next month meeting.
the 13th is our next meeting.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm off.
What?
I'm off for the Wednesday meeting.
I know. All right, well, good. Well, thank you again. How are you? And now I think we have superintendent's report.
Well, I had to struggle to decide what I wasn't going to say tonight on the superintendent's report, because there is so much going on. It's a really exciting time of the year. Love this. Obviously, graduation was yesterday, and we had 143 graduates from Greeley High School on Sunday. This was preceded by a lot of different events. We had a senior walk on Friday, where the seniors actually walked through all the schools and high-fived the kids and the teachers, and it was just it was really great. This is the third year we've done that. We had a candlelight service on Friday evening, very, very nice, a little bit warm, but still very nice. And then we had class day on Thursday. So just a lot of special events for the seniors. We really wish our class of 2018 the very best as they move on. And then on Saturday, we had some excitement. The girls' track team won the Class B state title. This is the second year in a row that they have been able to take the Class B title. So we're really excited about that as well. So that is actually I want to say it's the 6th or 7th title we've had this year now. The Cumberland County Teacher of the Year, Connie Russell, who is a second grade teacher at Mabel Wilson School, was named the 2018 Cumberland County Teacher of the Year. She went up to Augusta a few weeks ago, and she's now in the running for Maine State Teacher of the Year. So we'll certainly be hoping for her to go on to that next big step. She's one of 16 that are competing for that top teacher of the year. In late May, students with special needs attended the 2018 Community First Responders event. This is the second year that we have had this event on our campus. We'd like to thank the Cumberland Police Department, Cumberland Fire Department, North Yarmouth Fire Department, and the State Police for participating. They all had vehicles and personnel down here. It was great to see the kids participating and enjoying these activities. And I actually have a couple pictures that will be on my blog tomorrow that you can look at. And I'd like to give special thanks to Kristen Marks, who is the strategist, learning strategist for grades 6 through 8. And she organized this event as she did last year, and it's a really wonderful event. Outdoor Classroom Week, I'd like to thank Tyler McGinley and the Green Committee, I was going to say the Green Committee, the Environmental Stewardship Committee for hosting the Outdoor Classroom Week. You guys picked a great week.
Yeah.
It was the best week to be outdoors, I think. And every day I saw tons of classrooms out there, all the way from kindergarten through high school, teachers taking their students outside and just really enjoying it. So it was great. We'll have a couple pictures on my blog as well tomorrow. Congratulations to the 2019 National Merit Scholarship Program. So this is the class of 2019, which are now becoming the new seniors. So congratulations to these students who have been named National Merit Scholars. Nicholas Giandria, Timothy Lester, Luke Marsanicus, I'm not going to say it right, Edmund Paquin, and Matthew Todd. So congratulations to those students. I'd like to congratulate Cassidy Dean and Lauren Denon, who are 7th graders at the middle school, who are both winners of the Maine Municipal Association Essay Contest. And we had 3 students who attended this is a very prestigious math meet. It's called the American Regions Mathematics League Competition, and it was held, I believe, in Pennsylvania on Saturday. And we had 2 graduating seniors, Greg Pershing and Peter Theodoros, along with Maddie Albert, who's a freshman. And the 3 of them participated, and you have to be invited to be in this. So it's my A plus B equals C would not do it for this particular meet. It is extremely competitive and very rigorous. And finally, I just want to remind people that our budget vote for the school district budget is going to be held on Tuesday, June 12, along with all the primary voting. And so the Cumberland Town Hall and the North Yarmouth Memorial School will be the polling stations. Hopefully everybody will cast their ballot.
Thank you. Yes, the graduation was incredible. It was actually, I got to hand out the diplomas, and it was just, it was really quite the highlight. So it was just a grade that we're, so proud of, so many great kids, and we really look forward to them, the next launch. The other thing that I know we met with some of our community partners this week, the PTO and the Foundation 51, and I just wanted to comment on just the incredible work that those 2 groups are doing and how much they're cooperating with each other to look for further synergies. Just an incredibly organized, motivated group, and I was really struck by their leadership. They're really just really firing on all cylinders, and how much we appreciate that. And again, of course, echoing the importance of the budget vote on the 12th. So with that, I don't know, do we have any public comments tonight? Go ahead, Dan. Would you just go on up podium, introduce yourself? Excuse me.
Hi, Denny Gallaudet, 67 Range Road. I don't have my environmental stewardship hat on tonight. I wanted to talk to you about an issue that has really been worrying me in the last several months, and that's school safety. As many of you know, 10 years ago I was sitting in Mr. Porter's seat. One of my students is here in the audience. And at that time, school safety was a problem. I had a couple of bomb threats, several shooter incidents that we had to deal with. But in my mind, it's now 5 times more intense a problem. And I just want to share some thoughts I have as a member of the community and a former school superintendent. It seems to me the school is standing all on its own here. You're not going to get any help from the gun law or gun reform issue. I think that issue is just too slow to mature. And the crimes that have been committed recently don't really permit the first responders to help because it happens too quickly. It's all over in 5 to 10 minutes. And so I have thought to myself what I would have done or would do if I were still superintendent of Richmond High School. You can remember that building, which had windows in every classroom. And the response that I would be taking would be to think really seriously about first hardening the building. Because these windows, or the windows facing Tuttle Road, can be shot out in a very rapid, 5 or 10 minute assault on the building. So hardening the shell would be something that I would be spending a tremendous amount of time thinking about. I know it's expensive, but school safety has to come first. It has to be. It's not in the strategic plan, oddly enough, but it seems to me it's so fundamental that it has to be before even the strategic plan. And the second thing, regretfully, it seems to me, because you only have 5 to 10 minutes, and some of the perpetrators are kids bringing, weapons to school. My son-in-law is 7th grade science teacher or 8th grade science teacher at Falmouth Middle School. And I just can't picture him trying to take down a student with 2 guns coming back from the bathroom. I mean, it's just frightening. So it seems to me the next thing that I would be doing would be to go to, unfortunately, the level of airport security and having metal detectors. And I just don't want to be alarmist, but I'm a concerned citizen and a former educator, and I would be doing this now.
I think there are actually more activities going on than.
Do you want to talk a little
Yeah,
bit
so
about
I'm
the
gonna-
safety committee,
yeah.
and what we're doing right now?
So I do appreciate, because this is one of those things that worries.
I don't envy you, Jeff. I would be quaking in my boots
No.
if I had to come to work every
It's,
day.
it's very concerning, I mean, considering how extensive, and how frequent these incidents have become. We do, I mean, you're right, the first 5 or 10 minutes are really critical, and a bunch of us, actually, many of the administrators, or some of the administrators also went with the police chief and fire chief from Cumberland recently to a workshop that focused on Sandy Hook and the lessons learned there from the first responders. In fact, the person that was doing the workshop was a first responder, the first responder in that particular incident, and gave us a lot of information that our safety committee is now utilizing. We actually are going through the list of procedures and protocols that they learned from that particular incident and applying it to school districts. So that is something that we're taking seriously, including some of the hardening of the facilities. And we have another meeting this week. Scott is also sitting on that committee along with both chiefs from Cumberland. We have a number of administrators and other folks that are on the committee. We have board members as well. Mike Simmons sits on that, and what other board members? I think it's just Mike, right? So our committee is looking at all those recommendations, and we're also looking at a safety audit of our entire district. That's our next step on the committee, is to look at our buildings and see first of all, what are the things that we can do right away in order to start protecting our facilities even more than we are. We obviously have a lot of protocols in place right now, but we know from the recent incidents that we've got to do more, and our safety committee is taking it very seriously.
You do have a safety committee?
We do. Yeah.
Great. Well, again, I wouldn't have come tonight because I know you have a busy schedule, and these unfortunately have budget implications, which is not what you want to be thinking of right at the moment, but I'm just fearful.
Yeah. Well, it's scary times, and every single time there's an incident, you learn something else. But the safety committee it's currently underway, and to the extent, with respect to the budget, I mean, if there was, in fact, and not prejudging it or not, but something that was raised up through the safety committee of particular we need to do it, we would be able to, for example, go into,
We'd go into our contingency or our capital reserve to
Yeah.
deal with that.
so we do, that is exactly one reason why you do carry contingency. And additionally, depending on what it was, we would have capital reserve in our facility. So we would have some ability to address some time-sensitive issues. But of course, there is, like you said, always the fear that whatever you feel like you need to do
Yeah.
yesterday. So,
Well, I'm grateful for your service as citizens. I feel as though you're standing alone, and the first responders can try to help, but they may not get here in time. So it really lands on you to keep the kids safe.
I think one of the good things too about this particular community is we do have an SRO that works on our campus, and we are on one campus, and we have a police officer every day who works here. On top of that, we have a police station that is literally, well, with a police cruiser, I would say it's probably 20 seconds away, 20, 30 seconds away from the campus. So if there was an incident that arose, it wouldn't be minutes, it would be very, very fast. And I know that, again, there's no way to completely mitigate everything, but we do have a lot of positives in our community that are going for us because of that, the close proximity of our first responders, so.
thank you very much. If there's no other public comment, I'd like to move to committee reports. Finance was chaired by Karen Campbell. Scott, do you have anything to update on finance?
Sure, I can report out on that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
The Finance Committee met on May 14th, and as always, we signed off on all the check registers. I'm not sure if everyone knows, but the Finance Committee actually signs off on all of the check registers, and so it's an extra set of controls in the district. So we reviewed those and signed those. We also did a financial update, year-to-date update on the district's budget. And we were happy to report that the revenues are actually exceeding projections by about $7,000 right now, and most of that comes from some of the tuition payments and interest earnings. We have very limited revenue sources. It's basically taxes and state subsidy, but there are some miscellaneous accounts that are helping us gain about $7,000 more in revenue right now. We also reviewed all of the cost center budgets, and we currently, in instruction, the contingency is preserved, and we've also encumbered about $200,000 in that account to use as a carry forward to offset next year's taxes, and that was part of our budget presentation. In addition, special education, through some savings in psychological services and out-of-district placement, we're going to have probably about around $225,000 in savings in that account towards the end of the year.
Great.
That's one area that's really hard to predict year to year because of the services and move-in and move-outs of students. So that's an area that's difficult to project sometimes. The PAS Instruction Center is pretty much on target with about $10,000 remaining there, and that's based on our student participation. Other instruction is on target. Student and staff support, we're looking at having probably a balance of around $120,000 in that area. System administration, that's an area where we're actually over the budget in that area due to legal fees, and we've talked about that in finance. And so we'll basically be doing a transfer from contingency to system administration to cover those additional legal fees. Right now, it's approximately $38,000 that we'll be looking to do a transfer with. School administration is on target. We project probably somewhere in the area of around $21,000 there left at the end of the year. Transportation is also on target. We currently have one bus that we aren't purchasing because we aren't getting state subsidy on it, so it doesn't make sense to purchase it right now. So we'll make that, hopefully we can get state subsidy on a bus next year and be able to make that purchase. Facilities maintenance, really the only balance that's left in facilities maintenance is around the utilities for the remaining part of the fiscal year. But what we did talk about is the reclassification of some of our capital expenditures in capital reserve that we make over the course of the summer, and reclassifying those to the balance of our contingency account, which helps us preserve capital reserve going forward into this coming summer. is, Mike well knows from chairing facilities, there's a number of things that are in our 5-year plan and some things that have just come up this year that are things that we're going to have to address this summer. Items that are like the stairs on the front of the Institute and the decking on the front of the Institute is rotted. So we aren't sure what we're going to find there. In poor shape, we've got the facilities roof on the facilities building. We've got a couple of locker rooms that we need to deal with in the pool area. We've done 2 of those. And then we've also got the roof on the Geiger Gym, which needs to be replaced as part of its, long-term capital repairs. And then in addition to that, which, Mr. Gallaudet was talking about earlier, some of the hardening of maybe some of the first floor windows over to Mabel I. Wilson School, because those don't open and work properly, so we've got that as well. So as much of our capital reserve as we can preserve, the better off we are going forward into the next fiscal year. So in addition, we had some savings in debt service of about $75,000 due to the refunding of the high school debt. So what we were able to do is borrow less on the Performing Arts Center because we had debt service budgeted for in the general fund, so we were able to borrow less at this point and preserve those funds going forward as well. Because we have renovations that are going to have to happen with the existing band and chorus area as we go forward and we move into that Performing Arts Center. So all in all, after about 10 months of operation, the district had expended and encumbered probably close to, it was about $34,686 of its $35.9 million budget. And we have right now a remaining amount about $1.2 million. $438 of that is the contingency. $350 of that is going to capital, and $200,000 of that is going to carry forward to offset taxes in the next fiscal year. So some of the balance that we had in instruction and special ed was also related to attrition. As you know, the district hires over the course of May and June. Well, we've already put the budget together in April. You don't really know the staff that are leaving, and if you were at the third-year teacher event we had, you would see that there was about 24 new staff members standing there. So when you look at 24 staff attritioning on about 411 staff members, you can see how there might be some savings from year to year in those salary lines, because we really don't know until, May and June and sometimes even out into July, what the attrition and what those salaries will look like for new staff. So that was our financial report.
Great.
And that's where we're at in this fiscal year so far.
Thank you. Thanks very much
Okay,
for that.
sure.
And thank you for all your hard work.
Okay.
Policy?
Well, policy wrapped up at our last
Yep,
meeting
that's what I thought.
mid-May. So we had a great year. We worked through a lot of, difficult special ed policies. So thanks to the board for bearing with us and getting us through those and asking the good questions. And I think policy will have another good year next year.
Thank you very much. Curriculum? Anything?
We don't really have a report. Both Vicki and Karen will not be on the committee next year, so looking for new board members to join us and have just be me and Sally. So yeah, nothing to really report.
Thank you. Negotiations, anything?
Just that we've met with the food service group, and, we have a tentative agreement. They're going to be looking at that on tomorrow, and so
Okay.
I'll have more news at the next board meeting.
Super. Facilities?
Back before Memorial Day, when everybody was having their outdoor classroom, Scott and I got pretty envious, so he scored me a hard hat, and we did a Greeley Center for the Arts tour, and it's really remarkable. Such a beautiful space. It's proceeding nicely, and I would encourage anyone who hasn't had a chance to avail themselves of the opportunity to walk through to please do so. They're wrapping up the masonry around the front facade of the building. Windows are on order, and it's really coming together. We did postpone our most recent facilities meeting, as Scott alluded to. We are trying to peck away as much of the 5-year capital plan as we can to address some of the deferred maintenance issues that have sort of piled up and backlogged. But really are going to need to workshop the space study at some point on the horizon, likely out towards the fall, because that's going to intertwine with a lot of long-term decisions, and just, of course, gauging how it all intertwines with our strategic plan. So stay tuned.
What is the current schedule for the opening for the Greeley Center of the Arts?
It's on schedule. We're still talking about in November.
Are we?
Could be, it's going to be November or December, I think, when it's going to start becoming available. I'm going to guess the grand opening will probably be closer to January.
Okay.
It would be like when we're opening it, but
Perfect.
we're expecting it to probably be available. When you and I were walking it and talking, we were talking with the contractor, and sometime probably towards the end of November,
Okay.
December.
Project managers are far more optimistic when I ask.
Okay, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, so far, there's been a delay of about 17 days on the project, so it's going to depend on how those days get made up and where we end up on the project.
Well, people are definitely seeing it, but I get it. So I'm getting, because of the excitement, I'm getting more and more questions about when's the opening going to be. So,
The opening is still tentative, even if the building is available. We've been talking with folks that are going to be involved with the opening and planning that. We have definitely put them off, as Scott mentioned, until January, just so that Ledgewood Construction has told us they need to train our staff on making sure that we have people that are appropriately trained, and we have people that are backed up to be trained. There's a lot of equipment in this facility, and there needs to be a number of people that need to know how to use it.
We've also got the winter break that we've
we've
got to
got
be
the
able
winter
to
break.
use to move stuff in and out.
We're moving
so.
people back and forth as well. So it's important for us to kind of get in there, and then we're hoping for a later January or even into February actual program to open the building. But we'll certainly be trying to schedule things in as soon as we can.
okay, great. Strategic planning. I think we covered that, and we'll look forward to hearing that next week. Taking the vote? Yeah. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Environmental stewardship?
As Jeff mentioned, we had a really successful outdoor classroom week. Bonus with the weather. They did such great things like an outdoor oven. They were making s'mores and doing shadow work and math on the sidewalks and practicing play reading outside. So super excited to hear all of that and hope we can continue that energy next year. And then I believe this Friday we'll be delivering one, if not two, grants for agriculture in the classroom for next year.
Okay, great, thank you, and thank you. It was great to see all the kids out.
Yeah, it was. It was cool.
It was really so cute. Student reports.
Yeah, so
Maiden voyage there too.
Yeah, I've never done this without Andrew.
Yeah.
So. This is weird.
And now you've got
Yeah.
a job shadow.
I'm super excited that Tara will be the junior board rep. I think it's going to be a really good year next year. I attended graduation on Sunday. It was a really nice ceremony. It wasn't too hot, so that was good. Yeah, I think we're all really excited about the next 2 weeks speeding along, and then we'll get into summer, but it's been a really good year. And yeah, I'm really optimistic for next year. So
Great. Well, thank you, and welcome aboard again.
yeah, yay, Tara.
So that concludes our committee reports. The next item is the board chair and vice chair nominations. I think what we're going to do in that regard is there have been some nominations or I've been reaching out to board members. We're going to keep, I am not going to be serving as chair myself for next year. I have all of a sudden become acutely aware that I only have 2 or 3 years left with my children in high school, and my work is busy, and so while I have loved being a chair, it is a good time for me to move over, and we have some very exciting new leadership. I also, frankly and personally, as board chair, often you feel somewhat constrained because your voice is inextricably bound as being the voice of the board. And I myself am of course acutely aware that what I say needs to be to some degree generic enough that most board members would have to feel comfortable with me articulating that. This year in particular, as being a citizen of Cumberland and also board chair, it has been increasingly frustrating for me not to be able to comment candidly and fully upon some of the bad actions that I've seen, frankly, our town council take towards this school board. And so while we have, I think, endeavored mightily not to use our platform to comment on the budget of the town, I myself am looking forward to being able to speak more candidly about what I think have been the incredible accomplishments of this board, the diligence with respect to putting the board's budget together, and then frankly, and I apologize, but what I believe has been the sheer hypocrisy of the town council with respect to this body. So with that, I look forward to taking nominations, and that we will be voting next week. And then at that point also, we will look for the strategic plan, we will be encouraging voters, and we will look forward to next year. One other thing is that our board calendar would be something that we would be considering. I'm going to also table that because I think that the next chair should have a greater say in that. And so once we have that appointed, we'll work towards having that calendar ironed out. I do think that all of us have been echoing a desire to have a few more workshops. And so I think we look forward to how that will partake. So that is my comments, perhaps my own editorialness, but I'm going to take that prerogative, speaker prerogative, for one of the last few times. With that, some exciting news is let's go ahead and do items for action on the approval of the wellness plan. Do you have any comments on that?
No, it's the plan that Carol MacArthur presented on behalf of the Wellness Committee at the last meeting, and so it's going for approval tonight. It is also the same content that you'll find in the proposed strategic plan, so it's aligned to that as well.
Okay. So with that, if I could take a motion to approve the wellness plan, and then we can have some discussion.
I move to approve the wellness plan.
Perfect. Second?
Was that
Okay.
Sarah?
Any discussion on the wellness plan? Okay. All in favor? There we go. Okay. Anyone opposed? Great. Then let's take a motion to adjourn. No one wants to go.
So moved.
Okay. All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Perfect.
Sorry.
All in favor?